All right.
We're good? All right.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our Tuesday, June the 9th, 3:30 agenda session. Did I have the approval of the minutes?
So moved. Approve.
No objections. They can stand as recorded. Madam Clerk, we have ordinances on first reading. All of these items A through, I think, J are planning items or zoning items. Councilman Ledford, I believe we covered all of those items in committee last week.
That is correct, sir.
Does any council person have any question about any of these items moving forward? I don't see a reason to read these into the minutes as they were read last week.
I'll raise my hand real quick, sir.
Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, sir. Item B, case number 0038, I will be asking for a July 21st deferral.
Okay. So item B. Very good. Any other questions or comments about our ordinances or planning ordinances on first reading? Okay. If not, we will move forward. Many of these items, I think, I'm anticipating will be deferred tonight. We'll have a discussion with our city attorney here in just a minute. But Madam Clerk, go ahead and read 7A, please, under resolutions.
A resolution to confirm the appointment of Marcus Williams to the Sports Authority Board representing District 3 with a term ending June 16th, 2026.
All right. Is Councilman Vice Chair Smith, that's your district?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. All right. Councilman Mitchell, I see a hand.
All right, I was told this would get taken care of in an agenda session, but this is the first example past zoning of the, I believe it was 14 other resolutions. When we read this and we make a motion to defer and second and vote on that, why wouldn't we just go ahead and go through with this part of the agenda? It takes about the same amount of time, unless there's something on here we're going to discuss. And it just seems to me like I don't understand the deferrals, other than I know we're trying to get to the public hearing, but it seems to me we'll save, by deferring everything else, we'll save all the 5 minutes maybe.
So I was having this conversation with the city attorney earlier in a phone conversation. It's her belief that we will need to read each one of these to defer it. So I guess what we need to do is go through each item and determine if there's some opposition. And if there is no opposition, I guess if we're going to have to read through them anyway, we might as well move.
I would agree.
To confirm them or pass them.
Right.
And if we can group any of them, we can group them.
Well, what I'll do is group everything that we're going to not, well, actually, Madam Attorney, I think then really the only thing that we might have to take individually would be our zoning items, because each one of those would be a public hearing in and of itself.
But those are moving forward, except for the one that Councilman Ledford said would be deferred, correct?
Well,
Yes.
do you still not have to ask for applicant and opposition? Do you not?
Oh, yes, they do. They do get the ability to have their 7 + 2 minutes.
So my point is, we're going to have to read each one of the zoning individually anyway.
You are?
But I think past that, what I would like to do then, council, is we'll read each one of these, and if there's any objection, then we'll pull it out. But if not, we'll group, well, basically everything left is our resolutions. We'll just handle our resolutions as a group, but the clerk will have to read each one. Is that correct, Madam Attorney?
That is correct, because otherwise the public's not going to know what you're talking about if you don't read them and you only refer to a number.
So we will take all of our resolutions as a package, but we will read them individually unless a council person asks for one to be pulled out. Okay?
Is that
Chairman.
including public, is that including the public works and transportation items, Mr. Chair?
Oh, you know what? We do have, yeah, that would include them as well. So that would
Okay.
include them. We do have one, don't we have a couple of, yeah, we got some ordinances on first reading for transportation as well.
Yeah, those are the alley or street abandonments.
If we're going to read them, I mean, we might as well take them all as a group then.
So there'll be 6 of those.
K through O. I guess K through P.
We'll go over. I guess we're gonna have a public works and transportation committee meeting here in just a little while, and those will be on that agenda.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, Chair,
Councilman Gilbert.
on the zoning, are we gonna be able to read the conditions?
Yeah, I would suggest that we read the conditions
All right,
to
thank
make
you.
sure that, to make sure that they're recorded. Okay.
Mr. Chair, one other thing, as far as the planning items go, in the past, we've often asked first, is there, obviously if the applicant's present or if there's any opposition, and quite often if there was no opposition, the council member of that district just moved approval without the need for any kind of presentation by the applicant.
Yeah.
I'm assuming we'll follow that same course, that if there's no opposition present, then the council member has the option of just moving that item and bypassing presentation. Is that correct?
If there's no opposition, I see no reason, unless they're going to move to deny, then I think the applicant has an opportunity to present their case.
Okay, that's fair. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
And now, Councilman Ledford.
Mr. Schultz is prepared for that, sir.
Okay, very well. Councilwoman Burrs.
On the one I have in my district, having talked to the guy, I don't know, and Darren, maybe you know, were there any conditions added? We don't need to go over it now, but I'm going to have them read if there were.
Would that be item E, case number 0049?
I don't have the number right here.
Third G. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. There were certain conditions. If you need them read, then you need them read.
Okay, I don't want to make a big deal. I just wrote them and said, were there any conditions attached? And I never received a response.
Then I would say on that particular case, we might go ahead and have Mr. Schultz read the conditions just for the record.
Okay, thank you.
Let me, Councilman Gilbert, let me do this. Any council person that wants the conditions read, then ask for them to be read. If not, we won't bother reading them
Okay.
unless you ask for them. Okay? All right, very good. All right, let's move down then again to our resolutions, and let's go over 7B, please.
A resolution encouraging private employers to provide paid sick leave to employees.
Any questions, concerns? I see no hands. 7C, please.
A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a second amendment to lease agreement with Irwin Marine Riverfront LLC in substantially the form attached to extend the term for an additional period of 3 months.
Councilman Oglesby, you good? You're muted. You're muted, sir. And I don't understand. I can't lip read.
Hang on, I got it.
Okay.
Give me a sign, Erskine.
All right.
And another screen. Oh, no, we're good. We've discussed this for the past 2 weeks, so
Okay.
we can go on.
All right. 7D, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Economic and Community Development to enter into contracts with the following artists and artist-led nonprofits for public art creative strategist services: Claire Vassort, Erica Roberts, Catherine Hargrave, Rise Chattanooga, Randy Josiah Golson, and significant developments for a cumulative amount not to exceed $84,000.
Councilman Ledford, is that a new hand?
It's for item H, sir, when we get there.
Thank you. Let's 7E, please.
A resolution authorizing the Office of the City Attorney to renew purchase order number 548221 with Arthur J. Gallagher Risk Management Services Incorporated for insurance brokerage services, athletic liability, commercial auto, out-of-state auto, public official bonds, Head Start auto for the second of 3 12-month renewal term options for an amount not to exceed $110,037.
Okay, I see no hands. F, please.
A resolution to confirm the mayor's appointments of B. Laurie and William Terry Ladd to the Hamilton County Board of Equalization.
You do have the resumes of each person in your emails. Any questions? Okay. G, please.
A resolution approving a special exceptions permit for a residential planned unit development for properties located in the 2000 block of Jenkins Road and 7950 Fred Lane.
Councilman Ledford, was this the one that you had your hand up for?
Yes, sir. I think we're covering this. If Councilman Mitchell will confirm that today in committee.
No,
wait a
that's a planning item.
This is G. I don't.
Planning.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. I see Public Works. It threw me off. Mr. Holland has said he needs only about a minute on this.
Oh, okay.
Wait a
That's
minute.
on H under Public Works.
Yeah, that's what's, yeah.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
under
Well,
Public Works.
I heard you say H, and never mind.
That's okay. We're good. Thank you.
I assumed you meant G, but anyway.
No.
Okay.
The other eight.
Absolutely now.
The other H. Okay. All right. Departmental reports. DIT. Is Brent on, Miss Lydia?
I will find out for you, sir.
Yeah, Brent Messer's got his hand up.
Yes,
Bring him
sir.
in.
Yep. He's coming in.
All right. Hey, Brent. Hey, there you are. I see you, but no sound. The IT person is having problems. Hey, there we go.
My computer wanted me to put my password in to make the microphone work. Okay.
Okay. All right. You got a departmental report for us today?
I do, sir. Very short and very sweet.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Let me get my screen shared here. All right. Everybody see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Chair, we are in council. Just wanted to share some news with you tonight, especially in light of budget and tax dollars and how we use those tax dollars for Chattanoogan's, by talking about our, very quickly, our response to the COVID outbreak. Are we still there?
I am. Yep.
There we go. I'll get it right. So just talk a little bit about the COVID response to our response to the COVID outbreak. We did it fast, very fast. One of the fastest on the East Coast and one of the fastest in the nation, in fact. It took us 2 days to get set up from an IT perspective and a technology perspective. Some of the departments may have taken longer to get everybody out. But from a tech perspective, it took us only 2 days to get everybody working from home. And just a few weeks to get council back up. And we probably would have done that a little faster had we not had this little state legislation we had to get around before we could allow you guys to do this. So how did we do it? Over the last 6 years, the department has been prepared for such an event as COVID. No, I didn't have a crystal ball and see this coming down the pike. As you may recall in previous reports, IT has worked hard over the last 6 years to basically essentially rebuild our infrastructure from scratch. If you remember back when I told you about 2014, when we were 15 years average age on all of our technology, to now just 3 years average age, which is exactly where we need to be. And we turned some heads here and there in government tech community space when I announced in 2016 that we were taking the entire city mobile and to the cloud. And I got everything from it can't be done in government to Brent, you're crazy. I'm serious. We got all of it.
You
When
still
we
get
started,
that.
Yeah, when we started moving employees' desktop computers and getting rid of all the bulky systems and big screens and things like that, and replacing them with lightweight portable devices such as laptops, tablets, and various things like that. And most of that, people balked and they complained, but a lot of that was normal response to change, of course. And then some others were saying, again, it's not possible in government and you're crazy, Brent. When we pushed our email and office systems to Google, people complained. They said it's not professional and I need to have a desktop client and you really shouldn't do this. We're a government. And then again, when we reduced our entire data center footprint down from 22 racks in a large building full with expensive power, cooling, fire systems down to just 2 racks, one of which is already still half empty, in a smaller facility offsite, combine that with computing and virtual servers and systems deployment practices via the Google Cloud platform. Again, people say, you're crazy, Brent. You can't do that in government. We worked with our tech vendors like Google to change their practices and even work for government and specific policies and certifications we have to have for data security and various things like that. People told me, again, it can't be done. Why is a multi-billion-dollar company going to listen to a little local government CIO? Well, they did. And we did all that, and we did more of it. And we are continuing to do more every day and do it for less every day. All the things that people said we couldn't or shouldn't do, we did. And now they all want in. Once again, Chattanooga is a trendsetter and we are innovators. So much more that somebody told me the other day that they refer to the DIT as the Department of Innovation and Technology rather than Information Technology. So over the past 6 years, DIT has saved millions in annual costs. And I'm not talking about, like I said, not just one time. Every single year going forward, we've saved millions. That's money that can be used to pave roads, whatever, have at it. We've made it possible that something like when COVID-19 comes about or something like that, we're ready. We're in it, and all of a sudden, now IT is everybody's best friend. Nobody understood why or what I was doing, but thankfully, Mayor Burke and his office and you, council, you trusted me to do it, and you gave me the funds to do it, and I thank you for that. And today, here we are, one of the most successful, highly capable, award-winning, and copied by local and state governments everywhere IT department. And that's it.
Well, that was short.
All right, any questions? Let me flip back my screen. Any questions for Mr. Messer? Go ahead and take his screen down, if you will, please.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Brent. Thanks for the short and sweet update on that. So I've been curious moving forward as to what city government looks like after this, anticipation of even it possibly circling back around in some form or fashion. So will you be providing, I guess, an update, some sort of report working with our administration and figuring out, do we need to go back to where we were? That's what I'm trying to get at. I mean, are we at a point where we can move forward with a newer, faster, leaner, meaner machine, utilizing less buildings, less infrastructure, less overhead, less, you know what?
Yes, in my opinion, yes. From a technology perspective, yes, we can. IT's been kind of living this policy for quite a while. We've had a very liberal work from home policy for several years now. And for us in our market and our area of expertise, it makes us capable of doing that. So it's easy for us to do. It's a little harder for some other departments to do. However, I know that the mayor's office and the administration are talking about making plans to as we come back from this pandemic, there will be some changes and it will be a new norm. And we are set and ready as a city to be able to handle that. So yeah, I think, why am I spending a whole lot of money on rent at the Edney building when I really don't need an office, when I can come downtown and I can meet with you after this is all over with, and then I can work from a coffee shop or work from the conference room or whatever the case may be, and those types of things. And we've done that before in previous positions. I've done that over the last about 15 years or so. So yeah, I think the whole thing has kind of changed the way people look at it. And as far as I know, this administration is talking about making some of those changes. I don't know what extent yet, but I do know they're talking about it.
And one of the questions that I've asked really since we implemented the go home policy is, has this had any kind of negative impact on services provided to our constituents? And the answer I'm getting, and I believe it 100% because I've been checking around, is no, it has not had any impact on our level of providing services.
From my understanding, yes, I think you're correct. We have done our best to be able to provide the same level of service. I know from an IT perspective, we have not really changed our level of service. In fact, our service levels have increased, which is very interesting. We've been a lot more productive this way than we were going back and forth between the offices. And I'm hearing that same thing coming from a lot of other departments.
I think there's a lot of lesson to be learned here, and I think there's a lot. I think that our administration is paying attention, obviously, and I'm interested to see where we go next with this, because this is our hand has been forced into something that we probably would have never done voluntarily, and I think that you know, with the tragedy and everything that we've had to deal with on many levels, if we can't figure out something to pull out of this that's good, and I think that Chattanooga has pulled out of this, and I think y'all done a great job, and I appreciate what you've done. Thanks. Thank you,
Thank
Chairman.
you, sir. And I agree, and we'll get there in the end, and keep that in mind when we go to fund IT.
Nice plug.
All right, Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brett, I just want to say thank you for the great job, specifically as it relates to getting the council up and running again. It was done super quickly, and of course, thanks to Vice Chair Smith for his help also, and everyone that was involved in that effort. Mr. Chair, really what I wanted to say is I'm probably, when we get to items on notice for future consideration, I'm probably going to want Brent back up here at some point. So if maybe he could just stay up here for a moment so we can get to that.
Sure, just leave him in, Miss Lydia.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Messer under departmental reports? If not, we'll move to purchasing. Madam Attorney, this is obviously an item on our agenda tonight. Are these items going to have to be read as well? I mean, if we're going to defer them, we might as well vote on them if we have no.
Are you on Roman numeral 8 purchases?
I am.
And there's nothing enumerated there. So how many are there?
1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 purchases for tonight. Can we just?
Go ahead.
Can we just read item 8 purchases and defer that till next week? That'll be much simpler than reading each one of those.
I don't see why you can't.
Okay. You okay with that, Councilman Mitchell?
I mean, you can move to defer, or
Defer
as long,
okay.
Go ahead. As long as there's a motion and it carries, then yes, you can.
As opposed to reading all of them?
Since it's the city and there's nobody, I mean, the public's interested in purchasing, but I mean, there's no specific one. Is it Plaza? I think that would be okay. But if it's short, it's always better to read everything, unless it's going to just take a lot of time.
Well, I mean, one item has 5 awarded bidders.
Could you not move to, or someone propose a motion to move all of the items under Roman numeral 8? Are any of these, do we know if any of these are purchases that require approval tonight? I mean, I don't know the status.
They can all be deferred 1 week. Okay.
Then I don't think I see a problem with doing that, so that you don't have to read them all.
Then if someone from the floor could just move to blanket defer all the purchasing items until next week.
Will do.
Without having to read everyone. Okay.
Yeah.
Very well. Okay, Council, you have in your folder council agenda for June the 16th. If you would pull that out and look over any items on June the 16th, apart from transportation and public works, and we'll cover those here in just a few minutes. I think that only leaves a resolution for fire, and then our second reading of our planning items.
Right.
Any questions on June the 16th? Okay, very well. Let's move to our items of future consideration. Councilman Mitchell, I think you had a question for Mr. Messer under this.
Yeah, it's under Roman numeral 5, information technology, and it's a resolution that's coming up to work some more with BG staffing. And I just wanted to hear from Mr. Messer why he thinks that this is a better way to do things. What's the strategy behind using contracted employees versus full-time employees?
Yes, sir. I'd be happy to answer that question. For starters, when it comes to our service desk personnel, it's actually more costly to keep full-time staff than it is to keep contracted staff. That is one reason why we do it. But we also have a level of expertise and network expertise to be able to replace on a regular basis. And a lot of these contractors have been with us through this last several years that have helped us get to the point to where we are now. So it's a cost situation. It's less expensive. And then we get a greater talent pool as well. And a lot of the contractors still are local employees.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank
Good.
you.
Councilwoman Coonrod. You're muted.
Thank you,
There
Chair.
you go.
I just want to know under finance, who is our interim treasurer?
I'll tell you what, let's bring Ms. Sullivan on just to answer that question. Ms. Lydia, would you bring Mara Sullivan in, please?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Hey, Mara.
Hi.
Did you hear Councilwoman Coonrod's question?
I could not. The internet was a little shaky. If you don't mind repeating.
Councilwoman?
Just want to know who is the interim treasurer?
Oh, the interim treasurer is still Tanikia Jackson,
Okay.
our deputy director of our deputy chief financial officer. Y'all had named her as interim treasurer prior.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. You good, Councilwoman? Any other questions for this part of the agenda? Let me just announce, it was decided in our Budget and Finance Committee meeting earlier that we would move our agenda at 6 o'clock slightly, and we'll have the order of business for the City Council before the public hearing. So we'll move under special presentations, the public hearing after our order of business. Is there any questions from the council concerning this change in the agenda? We all clear? And then I'll let Councilwoman Burrs explain the rules of this public hearing once we get into that committee hearing. Okay. All right. If there are no other items that we need to go over in the agenda session at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Councilman Mitchell for Public Works and Transportation Committee. Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Of course, we just had this in our hands, and before you discarded administrative items on notice for future consideration, we have been going over the CDOT and Public Works future resolutions.
Yes.
And there is one Public Works on there that's an agreement to manage and operate recycling collection centers, refuse collection centers. And that while it's not on the 2-week agenda yet, is there anyone that has some questions about that as we're bringing Justin up? And I guess that means we're going to start with Public Works instead of Transportation, even though it's not on your agenda that way. But I was just wondering if we could bring Justin Holland up, and we'll take care of Public Works part of the meeting first.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So
Mr. Henderson.
I think I would like for Mr. Holland to explain what the difference between this recycling collection and refuge collection centers, how this contract is different from the contract we just approved last week in our purchases.
I'd be happy to do that, Mr. Chairman. So the contract that you'll see from Orange Grove Center is a contract that has been in place for a number of years, dating back to the early 90s, when Orange Grove Center was operating the refuse, or was operating the first recycling center at Warner Park, and then began sorting and marketing the recycled materials for all of the recycle centers. We currently operate 5 recycled convenience centers with Orange Grove staff and clients, and their clients are individuals with intellectual disabilities. We also have supervisors of those clients stationed at each center 7 days a week. Each of those refuse and recycling convenience centers are open at convenient locations across the city. So this is the continued operations of those facilities. Be happy to take any questions.
Okay. I would, Mr. Chair, one other thing.
Yes, go ahead.
I have had some complaints in my district about some of the employees at these centers. What authority do we have over who mans these stations?
Well, sir, obviously the contract reads some specific requirements of the supervisors through standard operating procedures, and also our contract language. The contractor, and we know of a few instances that we've had to address, but the contractor, Orange Grove Center, has been extremely responsive in the past, and we have not had an issue that we've not been able to address. I've been involved with the Orange Grove Center and the recycled convenience centers and refuse collection centers for about 15 years now. And while there are some challenges with client interactions with the public, Orange Grove Center has been extremely professional in addressing those. And anytime we get a complaint, we do some retraining and look at any opportunity to improve the customer's interaction at those facilities. So be happy to field those questions from any of you and the public.
And by the way, I'm not referring to the mentally challenged or those that actually reside at Orange Grove. This is, whoever's in charge of the station that I've had complaints about.
Yes, so staffing is, always, there can always be concerns with staffing. Individuals make mistakes, and we try to address those and give the contractor some leeway to correct those. And they've always been very responsive.
Okay.
If there's continued problems, I haven't heard of them, and we'd be happy to address them.
Okay, thank you, Justin.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, so moving along, we'll go into the Public Works. We have one resolution tonight, one resolution next week. Could you please read 7H?
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to execute a federal U.S. Communities contract number 4400008468 via software to assist local communities in procurement of public safety and emergency preparedness equipment and related services related to Davidson Road automated high water road closures in the amount of $126,202 plus a contingency in the amount of $2,600 for a total amount not to exceed $128,802.66.
Mr. Holland, I believe you got a video show for us on this?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have Maria Price. If we can pull up and find Maria Price, she is our engineering manager for our water quality division, engineering division. And I would like for her, she has a very brief presentation to explain what this project is and what that would look like on Davidson Road and in other locations, as this is a pilot project. So I'm looking for Maria Price there. She should be prepared, and she will need to share her screen. Oh, there it is.
She's on.
Thank you, Maria.
There we go. Now can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. As you said, we have a weather-related road closure project. Davidson Road is the one that we're discussing now, but I wanted to let you all know what water quality has in store. So a little background, flash flooding is the greatest cause of weather-related death in the United States. Approximately half of those drownings are vehicle-related. When the rain falls, the waters rise. So Public Works staff has several locations throughout the city that it monitors. And if there are safety concerns, staff manually place road closure barricades and signage. This often happens after business hours and after the roadway is already flooded. There are several benefits to automation. The protection of motorized citizens and first responders. These units also come with a monitoring element, which gives us the ability to gather water level data during rain events, which helps us with our mitigation plans and grants, helps us update our impact statements, and better prepare for flood forecasting for these rain events. With staff not out and about checking these various locations, we are better able to utilize our public works staffing. The system comes with a dashboard, which is a powerful real-time data collection, analysis, and management system. It gives us one spot to see what all's going around, so we're not driving everywhere checking rain gauges. This also has an advanced alarm and notification system, so it allows us to choose who we would like to be notified, like the 911 center and emergency responders, to let them know immediately what roads are closed so that they can more efficiently route their facilities, their systems. So this also has a scalable licensing. So as we move forward, Davidson Road is the first one we're wanting to do, but there are future sites we would like to add. And with this system, we are able to add them. So we are going to utilize the federal contract to install a system of automated high water road closures at flood-prone streets within the city, as we have a few. Davidson Road will be our first. With this one, it comes with our base unit, which will be a one-time purchase. We can add future locations to this one base unit, so the next ones won't cost as much. It has a gate arm and flashing lights. These will be placed on either side of the high water areas. And you can see Davidson Road here with Mackey Branch across it. So instead of the manually placed road closed sign on the barricades, you'll have that fancy little arm with the flashers on the bottom left of the screen, something along those lines. So looking forward, this map shows our city with the locations we are looking to install these units. The green dot is Davidson Road on the bottom right. That's our first one. The next two, and we're kind of doing these in order of frequency. So we'll do Davidson Road first, and the next two shown in yellow will be Grub Road and Boy Scout Road, and then we have several others shown throughout the city there. And that was it, short and sweet.
Thank you, Maria.
Can you do away with the slides so I can see hands raised, Maria?
Yes.
Thank you. Well, I don't see why Councilman Ledford would even have a question about this, but I'm going to call on him. Councilman Ledford.
I know. I think I'd be really quiet on this. I mean, first of all, thank you so much. I'm so excited to see dollar signs in the same paragraph as the word Davidson Road. So thank you, Public Works. Thank you, Maria and Justin, for that. My question for you is, so you have the system on either side of the high water. In a case like Davidson Road, where the next connector is Julian on the eastern side, will there be some sort of notifications to tell people don't even bother turning down that road and going a mile before you have to turn around on an already very narrow path? Are those considerations or objects in place as well?
They are. We are working with CDOT to try to figure out where they would ideally have the signage placed so that we can ensure that people receive the proper notification. Yes.
Okay, very good. Because I know that once you turn on to Davidson, it's pretty much you're committed because it's hard to turn around.
It's over.
All right, it's over. Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate the attention to the west end of Davidson. I know we've worked on the eastern end, and we're slowly slowly doing some
We'll
work.
get there.
Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you.
Chairman.
Got a couple more questions. Councilman Gilbert. You're muted.
I'm sorry. Oh, I can read his lips really well.
You're right, correct. Do we have a timeline on other areas, or after this be successful? Hopefully it will be.
We do. We have been putting, squirreling away funds as we have been going along. It's in the projected budget. We are hoping to install a few of these. Once Davidson was the first. So once we get the green light on this, we get it installed, we kind of work out some of the kinks, we'll know where to go from here. But we've got a plan. We've already got it set up to go forward. We're hoping to add a couple more within the next year even.
Okay, thank you. One more question, Chair, if you don't mind. I have a constituent call me today. Matter of fact, since Justin's already here. Over on Howell Street, on Highway 58, they're saying there's constant flooding over there. And I know we at one time had bond money to try to help that problem. Can we look into that more closely?
Yes, Mr. Councilman, can you repeat the name of the road?
Hall Street, H-A-L. It's right over by CVS off 58.
Be happy to talk to our team and get back with you. We'll just connect back directly with you to let you know what problems we know exist, and then what some potential solutions may be. I just need to follow up with our group.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Byrd.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for a great presentation, ma'am. Right now, I still have, the major issue in Cannon and 28th Street over on Park City in Clifton Hills. The people out there, me and Councilman Oglesby share Clifton Hills area, and he can contest to that. Those people have been underwater for years, and they just feel like they can get no satisfaction. Their park flood, their streets are flooding, and it's because of a collapsed ditch on private property. And it's just, that's the only information that they have received. And before this year out, I would love to just give them a full display understanding of, what it looks like to fix this situation for them in a time to where it may get fixed, or what we can do, or to show them the complications. Hey, this is where we reached out to the people that own the property, and this is the response we haven't got, and what we can do as a city to trump that. Even if they don't respond to us, we're flooding people out in both these communities. And
Is this the area off of Brandon Avenue?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
we have recently sent a letter vetted through the attorney's office to the property owner, basically giving them 30 days to take action or present a plan of action, or the city has the right to come in and do the work and put a lien on the property.
Okay, awesome. So we have like a 30-day period for that.
Yes.
And if possible, I guess if I could talk to you off the record another time, so that I can let the neighborhood association members know that this process is in place, because they just feel like, we as a council, or me or whoever, left them hanging. So I would love to give them the information.
I will get that to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Mr. Councilman, let's set up a time, if you don't mind, for us to review what we've done in that location, and the work that Maria and her team have, and the information that they have. We'll be happy to fully brief you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
That's it, Councilman? Councilman Byrd, are you finished?
Yes, sir, I'm done. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Vice Chair Ken Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Price, Councilman Gilbert started down this path as far as timeline and whether we've got some funds available to move forward. But specifically, since a couple of those locations coming up next are out my way, do you know how long you guys will study what you first put forward as the pilot project to determine whether or not it is a feasible solution?
This is a proven, effective method of safety. So there's no question as to whether or not this is what we want to do. It's just more a matter of, do we need this particular element on this unit, or can we save some cost savings by not including this, or I wish we had the ability to monitor this also. Do we add it to this one? So it's not really a matter of, are we going to do it? We are going to do it. Once we get the green light to this one, we can just plow forward.
Okay, so you can just start the other ones right after that, knowing that.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
the only thing I would ask is take a little bit of time and make sure you make all your mistakes on Davidson Road before you head up our direction.
Nice.
We would appreciate that.
How much help do you need on Lake Resort?
He's got all the help he needs.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And, Maria, may I ask that, and I'm doing this because I see no more hands. May I ask that on your contact list, I'm not asking to be before the first responders or anything like that, but if there is a problem or these things are going into effect, these barriers are going into effect, please alert the council person of the district so they will know also.
Once they're being installed in their areas?
Well, not once they're being installed, but if you have to activate one.
Ah, okay.
And I believe you said that you, at that point, then contact first responders and different folks that'll help save people's lives. But I think it would be appropriate to also notify the council person that that's happening in their district at that point in time.
So along those lines, one of our in-game goals is to have an actual interactive, publicly available system where the public will be able to go to a website and see what roads are closed. So we will certainly loop you all in until that is in place.
All right. So what you're saying is in the long run, though, it's up to the council person to go out on the website and see what's going on in their own district?
Well, eventually we will have that available to the public. We are more than happy to keep our councilmen up to date personally once we get the alerts. Yes.
Wow, that was a great comeback. She's impressive. Thank you.
She is extremely impressive, and I would mention that most of the issues that the council brings to Public Works related to water and high water issues do flow through Maria's office, and they are extremely responsive and a really great group and put out a lot of work. So a lot of the water issues that you send our way all funnel through Maria. So she is extremely knowledgeable about many of the problems that you've addressed with us. A lot of them are very complex and take some capital planning, but many of the other small projects also go through Maria's office for execution.
We have a great team.
I'm copied on a lot of emails that Maria's on point and she does a great job. I would totally agree with you. Yeah. Councilman Gilbert.
Yes, is one of the places Shalford Road?
Yes, Shalford Road is on there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great question. I see no more hands. So I guess we're going to move. Does Maria have anything to do with next week's resolution? 7B?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you so much, Maria.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Could you please read 7B from next week?
Yes, sir. A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works Division for Waste Resources to pay a city claim for property damage which occurred on January 6, 2020 at or near 5336 Austin Road, Chattanooga, Tennessee, 37343 to Gail Holden in the amount of $26,281.
I see no hands.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, there's a hand. Chairman Henderson.
Justin, I'm going out on a limb here and assuming that we're putting a backflow preventer in this. Is my understanding this was a sewer overflow again?
Yes, sir. This is a settlement for a sewer overflow that was cleaned up from Austin Road.
Yeah. Are we making sure a backflow preventer is installed?
Once we do that work, we do go in and make sure that we've been able to mitigate the problem because those are typically areas if we have a claim that may be in a low-lying area.
Yeah.
And so we do go in and try to mitigate that. I'm not sure of all the mitigating factors. Sometimes the backflow is needed. Sometimes it failed. So we do take into account whatever mitigating factors are necessary.
So we are, or we don't know if they have one already. Is that what you're saying?
I can follow up and let you know if there's a backflow preventer that was installed as part of this project. I don't know if it was prior to or if there was a repair made, but I can find out for you and let you know.
Okay. It's my understanding it was policy that in an overflow, we made sure and installed a backflow preventer. And I guess what I'm trying to do is make sure if there's not a policy that we create one.
Yeah, let me follow up and I'll make sure Councilman Anderson.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Councilman. I don't see any other hands, so let me go a little further. I think a couple of years ago, Mr. Holland, we spoke about in these low-lying areas that are prone to flooding, can Public Works come up with some program that offers incentives for people to install backflow preventers before this happens? Have you all had a chance to, kick that around some, or is it possible, or am I reminding you of a conversation of like 2 years ago?
No, I remember the conversation, Mr. Councilman. Let me just make sure I understand exactly what our policies are right now before I respond.
Okay, that sounds fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, great. Anybody have any other questions for Mr. Holland before we move on to transportation? Councilperson Coonrod.
Thank you, Chair. Justin, I know you guys have been really working hard. I'm appreciative of everything that you guys have been doing. However, I still have in my district a great amount of debris from the tornado. Do you know when Public Works will be able to come by and pick it up?
So we are currently working in some zones, but we've almost caught up completely. So as long as those households are calling in, we should be on top of that. I think we are just about caught up, or nearing getting caught up to about a 4 to 5 day window of the call to collection. So if you have specific locations or an area, it'd be helpful to know about, and we'd be able to follow up and let you know what's happened.
Okay, thank you. I'll send you that information.
Yes,
and
thank
then,
you.
Also, again, I know you guys are overwhelmed. I am too. But when will Public Works be able to come cut the grass? Like, I'm really working hard on trying to get people to invest in certain parts of my district, and the grass is higher than what the city is supposed to take care of than some of the houses. I can't cite you for it, but do you know when we can get it done?
It's a pretty unprecedented amount of rain that happened the last 2 months, but so I do know that we have been behind. A lot of those crews and forces had been out working in a tornado area for about a month of the first part of the growing season. So we are a bit behind in that service, as we are in a lot of the bulky trash and brush collection services. We just had kind of all hands on from all of our construction operations, maintenance operations, and the typical right-of-way mowing. But we are still working on right-of-way mowing, and we have a schedule that I can, if you have an area that you want to share with me, I'd be happy to let you know approximately when that would take place.
Okay, thank you. And one last question, Chair, if I may.
Sure.
So Justin, I've been getting a lot of calls, phone calls, emails, and just out in public from people that work in Public Works that are saying they don't have the PPE that they're supposed to have, as far as masks, gloves, etc. And do you have the PPE, enough PPE for them to have, or is this something they're getting every day? And I ran into a few guys, they didn't have a mask or none of that stuff on, and they said they didn't have it, they didn't get it. Or, I just want to make sure that we're protecting our workers, and it's not just limited to people who, working from home or in the office, because they're out and, out there working in the community.
So we, as far as I know, we have sufficient PPE. I don't know of any gaps there, but I'd be happy to follow up if there's more specific information. I can certainly follow through with that. I haven't heard from any of our division heads or any of our operations that were lacking in any kind of PPE that was requested. We've been able to receive most everything that we need, and I don't know of any gaps there, but I'd be happy to follow up if you have more specific information.
Okay, and do you have like any extra that you can leave at in my council box? And when I'm out and see guys, I don't mind giving them a mask.
I'm sure that can be arranged if you let me know what quantities you need that might be expected. I'd be happy to arrange that.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilperson. Any other questions for Mr. Holland? Justin, I haven't forgotten about you and transportation. We're going to put together a presentation for the council on our alley policies, but obviously right now we're not going to deal with that, but maybe in July we can circle back around and set something up during this committee meeting for that presentation.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. And now
Thank you.
We're going to move on to transportation. Who is out there today that can speak for transportation if there are any questions from council? Looks like Blythe Bailey. All right. I'm going to ask you to read together ordinance on first reading for this week, 6K through P. If you would read those, and then I'll ask for questions from council people if you'd hold your questions until she reads them all.
All right. An ordinance closing and abandoning the unopened 1800 block of Pine Street, beginning at the southeast corner of tax map number 159GD007, thence 300 feet northeast to the northeast corner of tax map number 159GD009 as detailed on the attached map, subject to certain conditions. L, an ordinance closing and abandoning the unopened block of Pine Street at the beginning of the southwest corner of tax map number 1550H007, thence northeastwardly some 262 feet to the south of the 200 block of Ox Highway, as detailed on the attached map, subject to certain conditions. M, an ordinance closing and abandoning partially the unopened 1600 blocks of Rossville Avenue and Reed Avenue as detailed on the attached map, subject to certain conditions. N, an ordinance closing and abandoning an unopened portion of the 2200 block of Fagan Street, beginning at the southeast corner of tax map number 155AA016.01, thence northeast some 167.50 feet to the northeast corner of said parcel, as detailed on the attached map, subject to certain conditions. O, an ordinance closing and abandoning the unopened alleys on the 1300 and 1400 blocks of Workman Road, a portion of unopened right-of-ways in the 4400 block of Divine Avenue, the 4400 block of Walthall Avenue, and the unopened 1300 through 1500 blocks of East 44th Street as detailed on the attached map, subject to certain conditions. P, an ordinance closing and abandoning the unaddressed block of 3rd Street beginning at the east line of the 2900 block of Rossville Boulevard, the unopened 2800 block of Watuga Street, and the unopened alley parallel to the 3000 block of Rossville Boulevard is detailed on the attached map, subject to certain conditions.
Anybody have any questions, Mr. Bailey, about these?
Mr. Chair, those items in District 7, Mr. Bailey and I has talked about extensively, and I'm good with what he's doing.
All right. I see no other hands up. Anybody have any general questions for Mr. Bailey? No paving questions? I guess not.
Wait a minute, I do have one regarding the paving. Blythe, I want to tell you what a great job that was done on Central Avenue in Alton Park between 38th and Lee Highway. I've got nothing but compliments about it. And I just want to share that with you and your team at CDOT and whoever did the actual pavement. So job well done. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Councilman. I'll give credit to our hardworking staff and LA Construction, who's doing all of the paving this year.
Yeah, great job.
Thank you, Councilman. All right, we've got Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Chairman. Since you brought that up, I appreciate it. I was going to do this offline. So, Blythe, if we could get together, this is just a request for us to talk a little bit down the road about some of the tornado-prone areas. I'd like to get with you to talk about some of the areas that we think are going to be hopefully covered under the FEMA funds versus what we had already assigned to our paving budget. But you and I can get together offline. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Happy to.
Thank you. Vice Chairman Smith. Muted.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the first of what I expect to be many times that I'm going to thank Blythe over the next few weeks, as I have never been so excited to drive down a road and see it completely and totally closed. And at the same time, I have never received so few complaints about a road being completely closed. So Blythe, thank you again. I know it's been a long, hard road, but when the decision was made that a deep repair would work for now and get us through until April when we can work on a permanent one, you and your team moved very quickly, CDOT, TDOT, everybody involved, to ensure it got started right away to relieve the problems that we're having up on Big Ridge. And many of the residents are very, very thankful to you. So I just want to say thank you again. It's in process right now, and I'm just very excited to see it happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Councilman, for your comments. And I'll also give credit to our staff who, working with TDOT, came up with the idea to do that work. I think it's important from a safety and convenience standpoint, where I'm just as excited about it as you are. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Councilman Gilbert.
Two things. Blythe, I too want to thank you for Airport Road. I think a lot of people is really happy. Probably for my fellow council people, probably happy if they go to the airport that it is paved now. The other thing, I need to get with you about Kings Point, about speed bumps. So if you got opportunities, give me a call about the speed bumps in Kings Point.
Of course.
I appreciate it, sir.
All right, I see no more hands. Mr. Bailey, thanks for all you do for the city.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And with that, we're going to adjourn. By the way, I guess I didn't ask for approval of the minutes. So you guys want to do that?
It was approved.
Okay, they're approved. Sorry about that. We're going to move into, I believe now, Legislative Committee with Vice Chairman Smith. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, take it.
Thank you, sir. All right, so we'll get started with the Legislative Committee. We have met very infrequently, but we still have a minute approval to have. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve. Second.
All right. Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. Thank you. I know I did that consensus, but nobody's even asking for votes on minutes, so I'll just consider that to be sufficient. All right, so today we have our Essential City Resolution to discuss. Now, on here, I do not have the sponsor, but I believe Councilwoman Coonrod, you are the sponsor of that legislation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm hoping everybody has had an opportunity to review that. I know it's been sent around a few times, but Councilwoman, would you like to give the council just a quick brief as to the intent of this resolution that you're proposing, and then we'll see if there's any questions, any additional information that we may be able to answer.
Yes, absolutely. The intent of this legislation is just to make sure that Chattanooga, we're getting our fair share of the funding. A lot of times we miss out on different funding, and also making sure that we have the options to use that funding in areas that we choose to, and they hit on it as to what they're suggesting that the funding goes towards, and I can agree with it, and because part of that is using the funding to make up for dramatic budget shortfalls, which we've been in discussion about that, and to use the funding for areas of need. So I think it's a great resolution for us to consider, to be in support of.
Yes, I would agree. Thank you. Councilwoman Burrs?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea too. Councilwoman, the money comes from where?
Like the federal funds that's coming from.
That's federal.
Yeah.
Okay, the Essential Cities.
That's designated.
So do we have a mechanism for making the decisions yet? We may not, for how that money is used.
Well, to my understanding is that once the money is sent to the state, then the governor disperses that down to the municipalities. And then we can, have discussions with our mayor and administration on how we would like to have the funding spent. And they have like a list of things like to say what this money is for. So during the COVID, but outside of COVID, helping people maintain employment, you know, different things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'll make sure also that I'll resend this around just so that everybody has it fresh in their mailbox, because I think it was a while back when it got sent.
Mm-hmm.
So does anybody else have any questions on it? It's relatively straightforward. Just so you know, sorry. Oh, Councilman Mitchell. I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand there, sir.
Yeah, I was just wondering, because is there a co-sponsor to this?
Councilwoman Coonrod, do you have a co-sponsor yet? And I know it hasn't been placed on the agenda yet, so there may not be one.
We hadn't. We just put it in legislation, legislative committee.
Let me. Oh,
yeah, so you got to raise your hand.
Let me raise my hand.
Chairman Chip Henderson.
Thank you, sir. Madam Attorney, you may help me with this. I was thinking that if a sponsor brought this through committee, that the entire committee could place it onto the agenda without it needing a co-sponsor, according to our rules. I thought that was the procedure that we had.
I would have to check. If you want to move on to something else, I'll be happy to look it up. You're saying it requires a co-sponsor to go before the whole committee?
No. The sponsor can request it to be placed in committee. Once it's placed in committee, it's my understanding that the committee chair would ask, are we ready to place it on the agenda? And it would not, Councilman Mitchell asked about a co-sponsor. And I think once it goes through committee, if the committee puts it in on the agenda, it does not have to have a co-sponsor.
I'll be happy to look that up for you real quick if you want to address something else and let me have time to read through your rules.
Okay.
Go ahead, Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you. I think Councilman Henderson is correct. What I'm unsure about is what that looks like. In other words, does it require the committee to, through consensus, to say put it on the agenda, or does it require a council in committee vote? What does that look like passing through the committee onto the agenda?
I believe I can probably answer that, Councilman, and then somebody correct me if I'm wrong. So my intent at the end of this was to ask if the council is ready to move forward with this being placed on the agenda. As such, it would be. You have a consensus of the council to place an item on the agenda. I just want to make sure that Councilwoman Coonrod, as well as any co-sponsors she may have spoken to, get credit for the item being on the agenda and having it drafted. If there is an individual or a council member that has opposition or is not ready for it to go on the agenda, then of course Councilwoman Coonrod and a co-sponsor still have the option to place it on there, the two of them themselves, and then hopefully work out what any other further questions there may be. But if the council is ready to move forward with an item, it is not required to have additional co-sponsors to get it on. The entire body is putting it on there. And then the attribution of the resolution is just for the sponsor and co-sponsor, as I understand it to work.
That's very helpful. Thank you. Thank you.
I can read you what I found in your rules. Members of the council seeking to have legislation added to the council meeting agenda for a council vote shall either submit or recommend the proposed legislation to the council chair for the appropriate committee assignment. The committee may hold public hearings thereon. In such hearings, those who speak in support of the proposal and those who are in opposition shall both be limited to 5 minutes. I do not see anything about a sponsor and co-sponsor requirement.
Well, I thought you read the words either, shall either do X or Y. You're muted.
You're muted again, Ms. Malik.
You're muted, Valerie.
I was just trying to address Councilman Mitchell's question about a co-sponsor. So those words aren't used, but it just says to have it added for a council vote shall either submit or recommend the proposed legislation to the council chair for the appropriate committee assignment.
Okay.
And then I heard the term public hearing, which I don't know what that would be doing in our rules. But apparently it's in there.
It's
It
by
is in
choice.
there.
Yeah.
In case you want to have, there what needs to be one.
I'm there.
Councilwoman Burge, you're next.
Sure. Just to comment on this, and then I was going to go on to a different topic under your committee, if you're ready.
Councilman Byrd has a question. If it's on this topic, Councilwoman, do you want to go to him and I'll come back to you?
Yeah, well, let me just comment on Councilman Mitchell's and
Okay.
in your comments. So the whole idea when we first came up with these and wrote these was to have a sponsor and a co-sponsor for something to go on the agenda. And then say the chair would, if everybody agrees that it can go on the agenda, then it's assigned to a committee. In this case, it was assigned to a committee, and we found out everything we needed to know there. And then if it's going to go on the agenda is when you have a sponsor and co-sponsor, like you and Mr. Henderson have done. It's just, it gives it the impetus to go forward. But before it gets put on the agenda, anybody can bring up and say, I want whatever. But let me get off now and then come back after Councilman Byrd.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Councilman Byrd?
Thank you, Chair. Councilwoman Coonrod, if it's okay with you, I co-sponsor with you if that's, to get this move forward. And I would like to see it move forward to the agenda.
Thank you.
That's
All
it.
right. I see no further questions about this item in particular. Councilwoman Burrs, did you want to move forward?
Yeah, so it has to do with our equity resolution. I don't know where that, Valerie, maybe you can help me with that, but where that got left, was this just a resolution because we're preempted by the state that people are treated equally, okay? If they get a business, relative to business licenses. So that should have gotten, it's Councilman Mitchell and me, and that should have gotten to Vice Chair Ken Smith, and it was supposed to, and I'm not sure where it is.
I know that Phil drafted, and along with Heralda, and I don't know if Heralda, she was told it wouldn't be on the agenda, so I'm not sure if she's on the video conference or not. Heralda Bryson in our office.
Mm-hmm.
She was helping Phil with that. Apparently she's not on the video conference. And we were told that it was not going to be on the agenda, but I can't answer your question. I know Phil sent it out and finished it before he went on vacation.
Right.
But I'm not sure who he sent it to. Perhaps it didn't get to the right person.
It's not ready to go on the agenda yet. It was ready to go to Vice Chair Smith because he has legislative committee.
I can make sure when I get off the call, if we take a break, that I submit that over to him if it wasn't sent to him. And apologize
Yeah, he doesn't
for
have it. And that was the route it was supposed to take.
Okay, I apologize for that. We will make sure that gets to Vice Chair Smith.
Thank you.
And Councilwoman, thank you for that as well. I'm happy to reconvene at any time as soon as we have the legislation to review so that we can hear it as soon as possible.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you bet. Thank you. Are there any further questions? I don't see anything. Councilwoman Burrs, your hand is still up. I'm assuming that's
sorry.
same topic.
Sorry. No.
So I will ask the question at this point, although this legislation does have a sponsor and co-sponsor and those individuals can put it on themselves, I would still like to ask the body as a whole, are we ready to move forward with this item to be placed on the agenda?
Sure.
Yes.
Seeing no opposition to that, Ms. Malik, would you just make sure that 2 weeks out that this item does get placed on the agenda, please, and that it is properly attributed to Councilwoman Coonrod and Councilman Byrd?
I certainly will, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, ma'am, very much. If there is nothing further for the Legislative Committee, I believe we will adjourn until 6 o'clock. Mr. Chair, is that correct?
I have nothing further. That's correct.
All right, very well, everybody. We will adjourn until 6 o'clock, and I will see you then.